Good evening and welcome to the Wallingford Town Council's meeting of August 18th, 2026. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have a roll call, please?
Allenson. Carmody.
Here.
Fishbein.
Here.
Laffin.
Here.
Reynolds.
Here.
Rivard.
Here.
Versace. Here. Tata. Here. Testa.
Here. Okay. Item 3 is a consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve and accept items 3A through 3P and item 3R.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Item 3Q was removed from the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
my office should have transmitted to the clerk that that item is withdrawn for this evening's agenda.
It's withdrawn?
Yes.
Okay, I missed that, sorry. Okay, that's gone. All right, no other items removed from the consent agenda. We will move on to the public question and answer period. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Yes.
Keith Massimino. I haven't been able to be here since a couple months back, but we had a discussion online about the improprieties in talking at public comments. So there's going to be some improprieties I'm going to talk about, and it's going to have to be okay. We sat down with the mayor last August and talked about the work that was done at Community Lake. At the time, the mayor told us that it was inspected by the Park and Rec Director and DPW. That turned out to be false. We asked the mayor afterwards if the town engineer looked at it. We found out that didn't happen. They never looked at it. We have a new install going on right now at Community Pool for $11 million. I FOIA requested asking for all records of the concrete that they just poured. Our engineer has no records of it. So we have an $11 million install going on right now, and our engineer hasn't taken a look at it. Why is that?
I wouldn't be able to answer that question clearly because I have no oversight over any department in town, but...
Mayor, do we know why?
Mr. Chairman, the job is it's being supervised by several other departments, and the engineering department hasn't been called in to inspect.
Okay.
So when you pour concrete, they do an inspection of the concrete to make sure it's clean. She has no record of that. That was the exact issue we brought up with Community Lake. So we're paying an engineer to not look at an $11 million install that you, me, and everyone else in this town is paying for, and that's okay.
Are you suggesting that in a public contract such as this project, the town engineer should be checking the concrete?
I'm suggesting that at minimum, she should have records of the concrete being checked.
And what is the basis of that suggestion?
That she's our town engineer.
But what is this, what is the, just because you think that's what a town engineer should do? Or is there something where it indicates?
Unless I'm crazy, the town engineer's job is to look after our work that's being done in the town. Are we just out to trust every contractor that comes in that they're going to do the work right? Is that what Wallingford's
No, I
plan
would
is?
never imply that. I'm just trying to, you are clearly discussing the work of a town employee who has a job description, has responsibilities, et cetera, and there are contracts with conditions to them. And I'm just asking, since you're publicly suggesting that the town engineer should be checking the concrete, Do you have anything other than your own feeling that that's what a town engineer should do?
Well,
Because that would be something I would ask you to,
I'm not privy enough to know that, but here's the easiest part. Mayor, is the town engineer's job to oversee our work done by third-party contractors?
That's not an absolute.
Okay, so is she supposed to?
It depends upon how the job is spec'd. If there aren't other consulting engineers involved in supervision, then perhaps she does.
Okay. So it could happen, it could not happen. It sounds like if that's the case, we need to elaborate what the job title is of our engineer we're paying. Because it sounds like we don't know what they're supposed to look after. We don't know, maybe, who knows, possibly. It's a problem. So no one from the town, at least maybe someone can correct me, no one from the town is looking into this $11 million install. We're taking the contractor's word for it that everything's being done proper. Is that accurate?
I would never agree with that, no.
Could we get a clarification of that, if that is accurate?
I don't know.
Because last I was told, Kenny Michaels is not an inspector in any capacity. So the Wallingford Media Machine has done an amazing job putting him out there with a hard hat and a vest, but apparently he's not equipped to inspect anything. So who from the town will, or is, or might?
Well, I suppose it would be worthwhile to take a close look at the contract, find out how the town spec'd out the job, what the role of the architect and any engineer involved would be. We could take a look at that.
Okay, so I'll make it my job to look at the contract, and then we'll reconvene in a month. And if it says that the engineer was supposed to look at it, what are we going to do?
I don't know. I guess we'll know when the time comes.
We'll cross that bridge next month.
Take a look at that myself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, please.
Evening, Jason Michael. I just have a few questions. The consent agenda item that was removed, normally you can either tell by the backup or it says who sponsored the item, but this didn't say it. It was just a proposed lease. Is there any way to find out?
It was proposed by the mayor.
Oh, okay. Is
And
that?
that's on the agenda.
Oh, it was? Because
The agenda item is written out and it says
Oh, okay.
mayor.
That's my mistake then. I have a question about it being, this isn't general, but it applies tonight because an item was removed from the consent agenda. Typically, if there's a change to the agenda, it goes out to the public. Is this not procedure? If it's something's pulled off consent to let the public know that now it's an item to discuss? And if it's not, it's not. And I ask, should it be? I think it should. Otherwise, how would people know? We see consent agenda, it's like, well, we're not going to be able to speak on it, so maybe I'll watch it from home. But had I not spoken with a couple of counselors, I would never have known it was being pulled. So maybe if I wanted to speak about it, I wouldn't have thought to come here. So is that something that should be sent out as an amended agenda, is what I'm asking?
Well, you wouldn't, when it was requested to be pulled from the agenda, that would mean it would become an agenda item that you would be able to speak on.
Right, but we don't know that happens because it didn't go out as an amended agenda. Typically, if something changes between the time the agenda's put out originally and something's changed, we get something from the clerk that says amended agenda item, whether it's a new piece of backup or a whole new item. But I don't know if I've never really paid attention in the past. If something pulled off the agenda, should it have time? You know, it's not being done in the 11th hour or whatever, I get logistics, but shouldn't that be made public, that there's a new agenda item, essentially, that the public can speak on?
That's a reasonable point. Let me check that out.
I appreciate it. This is the first time it was like, geez, I wonder why we didn't know about it. Had I not spoken to a couple of counselors, I wouldn't have known, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah, typically, a counselor will send an email requesting that an item be pulled, and I can't say tonight, off the top of my head, whether there is a standard procedure for how that's handled other than we just handle it the night of.
Right.
We let everybody on the council know. Should typically when an agenda is amended, it goes out, but when an agenda item is pulled by a counselor for discussion, how, or even if that is, that information is relayed to the public, I don't know, so I'll check that for you.
I appreciate it.
And no, I should know that, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Secondly, is there a reason, or through the chair to the mayor, is there any particular reason or any that we can be told that why this was removed after it was pulled?
Yes, when the counselor removed the agenda item, there was a series of questions that requires research.
Okay, thank you. Thirdly, this has to do with appropriations in the budget, as you guys know, but so I have a 501c3 nonprofit community theater in town, and we were awarded $5,000 in this year's budget. And I had called financing to see what the procedure was. Do we come pick up a check? Does it get mailed? Do we give you bank information? I didn't know because it's our first year. And we were told that, well, we think you have to write a letter requesting that the funds be released. I said, okay, and the gentleman in finance, forgive me, I don't remember who it was, but said, we'll get back to you with any other things. And I ended up getting an email from the mayor's office manager with an attached letter from the mayor with 2 or 3 more requirements, which included detailed budget and plans of what you're going to do with the money that will then be reviewed. And this confused me because we've already gone through all of that, and the council saw fit that we were awarded this money, and now there's 2 more hurdles in front of us. And is that a blanket policy for everyone? Do you know about this? I assume the council would know about that. I've known in the past that from other people that I knew at 501c3s, they just wrote their, hey, we'd like our money, could we have it? Is that a new policy?
I would have to refer that to the mayor.
So submissions for those funds were requested to provide a budget. I believe that after you submitted your initial request, we had asked for a more detailed budget. So I think you listed that your operation costs $35,000 a year. There's no breakdown as to the income sources that make up that $35,000. So we're looking for that kind of information.
Wouldn't that been a disqualifier prior to them voting on the money to award us?
So if you'll recall, when the budget was proposed to the council, your item was not included.
I do recall.
It was not included for that reason. The council added the item, and it stayed in the budget. I would just like to see, I think it's reasonable for us to understand the breakdown of your income sources.
And is this a blanket policy for all people requesting money?
It was part of the initial request, the initial request for submissions included that.
And we did itemize what, our budget is not like other machines that run on exacting numbers. We have no idea what our costs will be. And I won't go into the weeds on this, but forgive me, this is just yet another layer of this nonsense. It's nonsense. It's not a surprise to anybody in this room that you did not want our company to have this money. That is, the detailed budget is the 3rd different reason that we were given after disproving the first 2. We supplied you with everything we had. You said no. They said yes. Now you're saying, but only if. So I'm confused. Have you ever asked another 501c3 to do this?
The other requesters complied with our request when they applied for the money.
Even the ones who never applied at all, that you gave money to. That's what you're saying.
I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about.
I'm talking about the Wallingford Community Theater didn't request a budget appropriation, yet got one at all. I've FOI'd your office. I asked for everyone's request, everyone's acceptance letter, everyone's denial letter. They didn't have one. I don't mean to point them out, but they're the only ones I know of for sure that didn't even ask for the money. Yet we are now on our 5th hurdle. And I can't help but think this is wildly personal.
The Wallingford Community Theater appropriation is in the rec department budget. Your request came into the social services budget, and those are handled differently. The budget allocations in the rec department budget are mostly historical allocations.
But all of your requests, all of your requirements went out as a blanket to all 501c3s, no matter what department they were going through. And one of them doesn't supply you with anything, the town being you, and gets the appropriation. Yet here we are after being awarded the appropriation, being told we have to review again. Is that even legal by our charter? I thought you handled the purse strings, you had the right to veto, write the budget. Once it's approved by the governing body that governs the money, that's the budget. So if I'm to send a letter in, like I was told, yes, we'd like to have the release of our appropriation, I now have to do more?
All we asked was for your sources of income. If you can provide the breakdown of your $35,000 of income, we'll be satisfied.
The $35,000 isn't income. That's number one. That's what we assume we would need to run a year. That's not income.
I'm sorry, I'm now confused.
Okay, I'm sorry.
How
But
do you-
again, and we're getting off track here. We were awarded the appropriation by the body that awards the money to people who ask for it. And now we're being told, you can't have it unless you do what I say because I think I want you to do it. But you're not doing that to everybody. That's my problem here. That's the baseline of my problem here. This is not an equitable ask. It's not fair.
I need to cut in now. My understanding of the mayor's explanation is that what you're being asked for is information that would normally be received during the application process. And since we awarded you that money after the fact, that information wasn't available to the town, so they're just asking you to supply what everyone else would have asked. That's what I'm hearing, but this can't go back and forth like this because this is not a you versus the mayor kind of discussion thing.
No, it's definitely not.
But
it's a question of procedure and rule.
I want you to get the information you're requesting, but this back and forth has gone on far enough. What I would ask is perhaps, if I may, Mayor, could the administration provide a brief explanation in writing to Mr. Michael's organization as to what the situation is and what you're asking for and why, and with a timeline, so forth, and clue and provide the council with a copy of that, and we'll follow up and make sure that you've got that information. And if you have a problem with any of that, please let me know.
So just to be clear,
Yeah,
if we request the funds tomorrow, we can't have them.
I don't know that.
Well, who does?
Well, apparently the administration who releases the money.
But wouldn't the procedure written as it's written dictate that?
Well, it sounds like it does dictate that, and they've explained to you why there is a holdup. And I just said it. My understanding is that what would have normally been requested to be included in the initial package wasn't there. But they denied you. We approved you after the fact, so they still want to see it. Now, whether that's within the guidelines of how we normally do this stuff, I can't say tonight because I would be speaking without full knowledge of everything.
Fair enough.
So all I'm asking is that we get people to communicate quickly and clearly and try to resolve this for you, and I'll do my best to facilitate that.
Right. And once again, not to beat a dead horse,
Well,
we are being singled out here. That's clear as day. There is no question about that. Right?
I understand that is your feeling.
No, it's not my feeling. That's not easy. You're going to say that, I'm going to walk away and say thank you very much. It's not my feeling, it's reality.
Okay.
That's the difference. And I'm sorry that I'm getting pointed, but
No,
this is wildly frustrating that now, yet again, at every turn, it's the mayor's, it's his purview. He didn't want to give us the money out of a $220-something million budget. We were the $5,000 of fat I get it. That's his choice. But once it's approved in the budget, where does it say that I have to do anything else? That's what I want to know. Not, hey, let's try this and you hurry up and get you this. Where does it say I have to do this? And I don't want to be like this. I shouldn't have to be.
I think we explained that they're trying to retroactively have you fulfill a requirement of the application in the first place. I can't say that in any other way. I've said it 5 times, and I'm not even defending this.
But is that procedurally correct?
I think
whether you're
so.
saying it or not?
I think so.
Fair enough then.
But I don't know.
we're
I
done
will
here.
check with the finance law. I promise you, I will try to resolve this and get you the answers you want.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Steve Drumheller. I live at 75 North Orchard Street in Wallingford. This comes across a little strange after the previous conversation, but I really just wanted to come up here and say that I've lived in this town for quite a long time, and I've lived in a few other towns, and yeah, they always say comparison is the thief of joy, but when you compare our town to other towns, I mean, Wallingford is, far and above any other town I've ever seen or talked to. When I tell people I'm from Wallingford, there's a huge sense of, oh, you're so lucky, amazing library and everything. So really, I just wanted to come up here and thank all of you for all that you do. I'm a registered unaffiliated, so it's not a party thing or anything like that, but you guys work really hard, and I know I've watched these meetings for quite a while, and it seems like the only people that come up and speak are the ones that have a problem or have an issue, and I'm not saying those are not valid issues, but I just wanted to come up and say thanks to all of you for all your hard work. And I think Wallingford is one of the most amazing towns in Connecticut, if not even further. So thank you.
And thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, point of order. I'm looking at our rules. Is there anything that precludes the council from speaking during this portion? Because
Yes.
I would like to speak to something, and I don't see in the rules that anything precludes us from that.
Off the top of my head, I don't know if there's anything that specifically precludes you from speaking. I could go to my parliamentarian, ex-parliamentarian, but I know that I do have some discretion, which has been questioned, and how much, but I would, if you have something to say, I would allow it. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just want to say to Mr. Michael's comments, what was just said is very troubling to me, and I just don't want to wait another 3 weeks until our next meeting. I'm happy to add it as an agenda item, but I just wanted to briefly just say, we, the council, approved somebody to get money. We didn't put any rules on that or stipulations or caveats. We didn't say anything else was needed. We said, when we overrode the veto, that group gets that money. And to hear now that, I guess for lack of a better term, they're being like jerked around to get their money, that's very troubling to me. We didn't put any rules on that or stipulations. We said, this is who gets this money, just like anybody else in the budget who's getting any money. Okay. And I hope that this is handled very quickly, because that's what we just heard is very troubling to me. I didn't want to wait 3 weeks to discuss this, but if it's not resolved by then, I'm happy to put it as an agenda item.
That's okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate your.
No, that's okay. And that's
Mr.
why
Chairman, if I may.
That's why I asked the mayor to perhaps write up something to explain it to Mr. Michaels and by extension, us. So I think, and let's leave it at that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if I may.
Mr. Mayor.
The administration resents the representation that anybody is being jerked around. Mr. Michaels got a direct response. We didn't say no. We just asked for some information. It's not unreasonable.
Understandable. Okay. And everybody's position has been made very clear, and I'll look for clarification, and we'll get this resolved. Anyone else? Yes. And we are going over, but I don't mind. It's okay.
I'll go real quick because I already spoke
That's
anyway.
okay.
Keith Massimino.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilor Tata. Apparently, we're the only crazies in the room that think this is absolutely nuts. he just told you that he's holding my money hostage, and he flew cover for it when all of you voted for it. This is a major problem.
Okay. Just a moment, I'm just looking through some of our rules here, but anyone else? There will be no more comment from the town council on this matter. We're done with the public question and answer period. Let's move on to item 4.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve a new job description for Information System Security Manager as requested by Human Resources.
Second.
Good evening, Jim Hutt, Town HR Director.
Good evening, Chuck Crow's IT Director.
We're here tonight seeking the council's approval for a new job description, Information Systems Security Manager in the Department of Information Technology. This is a new position. The proposed wage rate for the position is $98,388 to $124,985 annually. I provided you with a copy of the draft job description. Essentially, the establishment of this position is necessary to ensure that the town's technology infrastructure and its digital assets remain secure, reliable, and in compliance with all applicable regulations. So we'll take questions if there are any.
Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Good evening.
Nice to see you again. The only portion that I wanted to ask, because I expect that you gentlemen are comfortable with the content, is the need for the driver's license. Why is that necessary?
Sure. Well, there's other town buildings that this position would be traveling between. There's the electric division, water and sewer, town hall.
Okay.
They would need to drive a town vehicle.
That's a acceptable, simple answer. I don't have innate knowledge, and a lot of times when I'm having problems with my computers, somebody will remote in or something like that. And I just, as I was looking at this, I was like, well, if they're looking at security stuff, why can't they just remote in or something like that? Just a little concerned that we're making that a requirement when it may not be necessary, but I don't want to micromanage. So I thank you for the answer. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Okay. Councilor Tata.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Good evening.
I have a few questions. The first, the proposed wage rate for this. So it's from $98,388 to $124,985. That does not include benefits, correct?
That's correct.
So can you give us just a ballpark with benefits? Does that add about a third with?
So with benefits, you look at 22.7% for pension, about 82% for health insurance, depending on if it's a Class 1, Class 2, or Class 3.
What was that percent? I'm sorry.
Be 82% that the town would pay for health insurance,
Okay.
depending on the class size.
Okay. So when the IT director was created, obviously fairly recently, in the past couple of years, that obviously is a large salary position, understandably so. So I was kind of surprised to see the amount of salary proposed for this, because I understand if this is security, which is obviously a big job, but not nearly as large of a job as the director. Is this in line with other municipalities who have similar jobs? It seemed high to me for what the job description is.
Right. So we look at external competitiveness and internal consistency, and in some of the wage rates that I've looked at, this is very competitive. We also look at internal consistency. This is the same pay grade as the network administrator in the police department, as well as the network administrator in the Department of Information Technology. So that was the benchmark position to look at.
Okay, thank you. And I assume this is salary, not hourly, correct?
That's correct.
Salary exempt?
Yes.
So if there is some sort of, God forbid, some sort of major, event that happens that would not incur additional cost?
Not for this position.
Okay.
Plus also, too, if this is approved, this is the annual salary being proposed in accordance with the management contract, but this position technically probably won't be filled for a couple more months. So we're not looking for that full dollar amount. That's the salary.
For this year?
Yeah,
Okay,
correct.
understood. I was also wondering how this position will be hired. Is there a hiring committee? Is it, would it be the two of you? How does that happen?
No, so this is part of the classified service, and we would accept applications like we did for the Director of Information Technology. Qualify individuals, the most qualified will go to the next phase, which could be, could be an oral examination. That's what we did for the Director of Information Technology. So I would expect that would be the same method of selection.
And who's typically on the board, like the oral board committee?
So what we do is we do ask directors of information technology from other communities to come in, and they serve on a panel. We've had people from Choate before. So someone who's at the same level or a higher position would be on the interview committee.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question, do we have somebody already in mind for this, or is there someone currently that in a similar job in town, or?
There may be a few people who would apply that work for the town, but there's no one identified for this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Rivard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, guys. Yeah, we've discussed the importance of, as we broaden IT usage in the town security, so I can see the fit for this. I also had done some benchmarking myself on salary, and it seems to fit. Just for the public's awareness, how does this position, whatever salary ends up getting negotiated based on the experience of the individual to be selected, fit relative to the approved budget of the council and the heads already approved? Is it new, incremental? When do you think it'll go into effect, just for people to get themselves up to speed on how this fits in the approved budget that exists?
Probably, seeing how we're coming to the end of the summer, the end of October, November, depending on the applicant pool.
And it's within the approved plan at this point?
I don't know. I think what has to happen is someone's going to need to come back to the council to get the funding for this position.
So, for awareness, this is incremental to the 2026 27 approved budget that exists, and that'll be coming forward at the appropriate time when the position can be filled?
I believe so. I think that's the plan, is that the finance director will come at a subsequent meeting looking for the funding.
Okay. Thanks. Just wanted for clarity.
This is
for
just
folks.
to approve the job description tonight.
Understood. Yep. We're approving a description to go do a search, effectively. Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Anyone from the public? Okay. All right, motion's been made to approve the job description. We'll take a roll call vote.
Allenson? Carmody?
Yes.
Fishbein?
Yes.
Laffin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Rivard?
Yes.
Versace? Yes. Tata?
Yes.
Testa?
Yes. Motion's passed. Next item.
Thank you, Councilor.
Item 5. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the collective bargaining agreement between Town of Wallingford and WEPCU and IPSEU effective September 1st, 2025 to August 31st, 2028.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Hart, you want to give us a brief overview? I know this is the approval of a labor contract with some units of the electric division. Perhaps you
Yes.
can explain.
Yes, good evening. Jim Hutt, Town HR Director.
Jacob Arroyo, General Manager at the Electric Division.
We're here tonight seeking your approval for a 3-year contract with the WEPCO NIPSU unit of the Electric Division. This consists of the non-hazardous production and clerical employees. The duration of the agreement would be for 3 years from September 1, 2025 to August 31st of 2028. Let me provide you with some of the substantive changes. From a safety point of view, it gives the town language for the implementation of GPS technology. Effective upon signing, the meal allowance increases from $11 to $15 for employees working overtime or on emergencies. Effective upon signing, the shift differential increases from $2.15 to $2.50 for second shift and $3 for third shift. It also permits sick time usage upon accrual, and any clerical employee hired after October 1, 2006 would accrue 1 1/4 sick days per month. It also incorporates language from the Connecticut paid sick leave into the CBA and establishes a sick leave donation bank for employees. The probationary period for employees who are promoted decreases from 12 to 6 months. Effective July 1/27, the prescription drug copays increase to $10, $40, and $60 for non-formulary brand, and employee cost share for health insurance increases to 18.5% on 1/1/2028. The general wage increase provides for effective and retro to 9/1/25, 2.9%, effective 9/1/26, 2.9%, and 9/1/2027, 2.9%. And also establishes a $15,000 per year tuition reimbursement program for job-related courses. That's something new in this contract. And for employees who are in the 11th and 14 years, instead of the 11th year going from 20 days vacation to the 15th year, 25, it would give them 1 day per year in between the 11th and 14th year until they reach 15 years of service when they get 25 days vacation. And I believe that's all the substance and changes, and we'll take any questions if you have any.
Okay. Anyone? All right. I do understand that if we take no action, it comes into effect in 30 days, but we can vote on it tonight,
That's correct.
and that would facilitate some administrative wrangling with September dates and so forth.
That's correct.
So the motion's been made. I'm going to ask for a vote on approval of this contract. We'll have a roll call vote, please.
Allenson, Carmody,
Yes.
Fishbein,
No.
Laffin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Rivard,
Yes.
Versace,
Yes.
Tata,
Yes.
Testa,
Yes. Okay. We're all set. Thank you very much. Next item.
Item 6, I make a motion to approve pension increase for retirees in the amount of 2.5% effective with September 15th, 2026 payroll.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Hutt?
Yes, good evening, Jim Hutt, Town HR Director. Once every 3 years, I have the distinction of coming before you, seeking your approval for a cost of living adjustment for retirees. To be eligible for the adjustment, an individual must be retired for 1 year as of September 15th, 2025, not be subject to any automatic cost of living increase, and not be receiving any heart and hypertension or any workers' compensation benefits. There is no prescribed formula, and there is no method for which the COLA should be given, should be provided. What I've done is I've looked at going back the prior 12 months as of February 28th, 2026, the consumer price index rate of inflation was 2.4%. Following that, after the war with Iran, the spike in oil prices increased the inflation rate from the last figure of June 2026 to 3.5%. Looking at a more stable time period prior to February 28th, 2026, which I think is a more reliable time period to base a long-term cost of living increase on, that 2.4% coincides with the Social Security long-term rate of inflation, which is 2.4%, which is also the percentage amount that our actuaries use as the assumption for long-term inflation for the pension valuation. So based upon those figures, what I'm trying to give you is some objective criteria to make a subjective judgment. And based upon that, I recommend 2.5%. That would cost, on an annual basis, $394,691.53.
Thank you. Anyone on the council? Yes, Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening once again, Mr. Hutt.
Good evening.
Is the adjustment supposed to be retroactive or prospective?
It's prospective.
Okay, so the goal is to make the retirees whole? Is that the goal?
No. So the goal is in some of the pension contracts, there's language pertaining to the first one that they received was 3%. I forget what the actual year was that happened. And then every 3 years afterwards, the town council considers some dollar amount, right? So it's been for the past, my 23 years here, it's been 1%, 1.5%, and I think 3%. So there's no, as I said at the onset, there's no method, there's no prescribed formula. It's really the approval of the council based upon the recommendation of the HR department.
When I look at a COLA, we briefly talked about goal, right? Mm-hmm. So a COLA adjustment is supposed to, in my mind, make up for increase in inflation, increase or decrease in the value of the dollar, mm-hmm. right? So I'm looking at the trend here. The trend is about 7.5%. If it's prospective, right? We can reasonably say that the dollar that is paid to the retirees is going to decrease in value by 2.5% for this year, next year, and the following year. That's reasonable based upon the trend?
So the COLA, if you approve it, and it doesn't have to be 3.5%. You can go lower if you want. The 3.5% would be provided to retirees who met the criteria for their September 15th, 2026 pension check, and they would not get an adjustment until 3 years from now when you would take that up to consider it then. So it's not 2.5% September 15th, 2026, another 2.5% in 2027.
Oh, no, I got that.
Yeah.
But the actuality is that the dollar that's paid to the retiree over the next 3 years, which is prospective, will over that term decrease in value by 7.5% based upon the trend, right? So if a COLA increase, because we can't do this again, right, in 2027 or 2028, this is our chance for these 3 years. I'm just trying to put together it's not logic, is it? The methodology by which we look at a 7.5% decrease in the value of a dollar, yet we find it to be an appropriate COLA increase at a third of that. Because you're recommending 2.5, right?
For
and
the
we can't
reasons that I
raise it
mentioned.
again, right?
That's correct.
So everything that I just said is correct, and I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, is it because if we did the 7.5%, then it's $900,000, and that's a unacceptable number to you and the administration? I mean, that's one way of looking at it, and I don't know if that's the situation, because usually COLA increases are supposed to try and make someone whole.
Right. But our formula doesn't provide for that. This is really, for all intents and purposes, at the discretion of the council.
Well, you don't have a formula.
That's correct.
So you can't say your formula doesn't provide for that if you don't have a formula, right?
Right. Well, I said it at the onset. There's no method, there's no prescribed formula for coming up with the COLA.
Yeah, no, I understand. So I'm trying to figure out why you and the administration thinks it's fair to give a third of the projected damages to these individuals. Why isn't it,
if I may?
5%?
So the data wouldn't support, at least the data that I looked at that point in time that I looked at, right? So as I said at the onset, disregarding what happened after February 2006 with the spike in oil prices, which raised the rate of inflation, looking back in the prior 12 months, before then, a more stable time period, more stable increase or decrease with the inflation rate, disregarding that is a more reliable measure for long-term cost. This is still going to cost you $395,000 each subsequent year. So it's not like it's a one-time cost and you don't pay it again.
I don't disagree with that. If that's the driver here, that actually making retirees whole is too much of a hit for the town, then fine, say it. I mean, I just don't see the connection between 2.5% and what the future naturally brings. And I know we had this discussion 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we did was we raised the amount that you came to us to recommend. I think you were at 2.5, we did 3 or something like that.
No, there was a motion for 4, and that was not approved by the council. It stayed, so they approved a 3%. The range that, at least in my time here, and I did look at a few other years, but nothing has exceeded 3%.
Oh, no,
upon my research.
I understand, but we're up here whole cloth, and
Right.
as I watch the dollar diminish, that's what we're trying to deal with here. And by the time Mr. Michaels gets his money, his $5,000 is going to be worth $4,000. But I'm just trying to figure out. I mean, I guess I got the answer. Not that I'm happy with the answer. It just seems like a dartboard sort of situation. This feels good, even though the trend is a lot higher.
Right.
So.
Like I said, there's no formula. There are many pension plans that don't give anything. Once you retire, that's it. There's no more COLA.
I understand. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Tata.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening again. You kind of just started to speak about it, but so other municipalities, is this adjustment typical? Do some do it, some don't? What's the?
So some do, some don't. Some have certain percentage amounts that they've negotiated into contracts. So I think you're in a unique situation where you have that discretion. You're not confined to a percentage amount. The only thing you have to go on is what's been the historical process here. So it's really depending on the municipality.
Do any of our bargaining units have a COLA already
Yes.
in their pension? Okay.
Sure, yeah, police and fire do. And some of the hazard plans were the original ones that had it.
Okay. So if the ones that don't have it, if we don't do this, basically a retiree's pension check is going to remain the same if they're retired for 30 years. It's going to be the same amount that they got on year 1 as they get on year 30, correct?
That's correct. If you don't give them an additional amount, you'll take this up again in 2029.
Okay. And then obviously I'm looking at the cost too, and you just mentioned it too. So it's $394,691 annually if we approve the 2.5% increase. So when we get to budget season, every year, and we say we have to approve these things that, now we have to fund the things that we approved outside of the budget, and this obviously is a large one. So over the 3 years, we're at $1 million.
So this would be paid out of the pension fund?
Correct, but that
Correct.
is part of our
You
budget.
put the money in to pay
Yeah,
it, yes. Yep.
So I just wanted to make note of that. So if it is approved, it's $394,000 out of the pension fund every year now going forward. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rivard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had done a bit of research on this one. Absolutely understand what Councilor Fishbein is saying, that typically the inflation rate is a little bit higher than this. I don't know if I recognize a 7% annual. It seems a little bit high from what I've seen, but nonetheless, I like the spirit of trying to keep people whole, relative to inflation over time. Benchmarking some other towns that have, I'd say, this is kind of an ad hoc increase. It's not tied to some sort of, some sort of requirement to the CPI index or something. And usually, towns will decide or not to do that based on the health of the pension fund itself and its solvency and position. Can you comment on, how our pension fund overall looks relative to the open obligations and what we have out there, and whether this, fits within that? We can argue over 2.5 or 3, but I'm comfortable with a 2.5% ad hoc. Can you comment on the overall pension fund itself?
So I can look at the last valuation, which I believe you were all provided a copy of. And as of this fiscal year, our percent of payroll that we're contributing for the first time in a long time has decreased from 25.3% to 22.7%. So it's slightly less than what we paid in the past. And as of, for this July 1, the funded ratio increased from 73.2% to 75.1%. So we're in a positive trajectory, all right? Now, that could change overnight. The stock market could bust and we'd be back in 2008 again. So with that, with the rate of return being the way that it is, and the rate of inflation, that's why I came up with the 2.5%. To be cognizant too that we're still 75% funded. I'd like to see that a little bit higher.
Right, that was kind of where I was going, because if it's something we believe in continuing, generally having a pension, so the overall solvency in the long run is the key. Thank you for the dialogue. I'm supportive of this personally. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'm just looking over some things as we were speaking. We fall into the category of the ad hoc legislative lump sum bump, where there's not an automatic formula, so forth and so on. And it seems that typically it's usually a flat 3 to 5% one-time adjustment. That's what it's indicating from a, nationwide type of thing.
Plus, I try to give you some objective criteria. One is the Social Security, the best case scenario, long-term assumption for inflation is 2.4%, which is what our pension actuaries use for the rate of inflation assumption when they value our pension fund.
Now, but the Social Security, is that typically annual?
Yes.
So if, they're doing 2%, that's over 3 years. That's right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the compounding up to 6. I know it seems like the average, as I'd mentioned in our earlier, the average COLA for public pensions is usually about between 1.5% and 2%. But that's annual.
Correct. But you'd also.
So we do have this 3-year issue.
Right. But you'd have to look at there may be some other factors
Right.
that provide for that COLA on an annual basis that our plan doesn't take into consideration.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. I'll take a roll call vote.
Allenson? Carmody?
Yes.
Fishbein?
Yes.
Laffin?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Rivard?
Yes.
Versace?
Yes.
Tata?
Yes.
Testa?
Yes. Okay, thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you very
Hart,
much.
for your explanations, your help, and your hard work. Next item. Next item is a discussion regarding mayoral vetoes and line item vetoes and so forth, related to our budgeting process primarily, and this was requested by Councilor Tata. So I will turn the mic over to her to explain what she was thinking and what she'd like to see discussed, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're very welcome.
So I made a list of, I think there were 3 or 4 subjects that came up during this year's budget that kind of during the time constraints of the budget and everything else we were dealing with, we kind of all seemed to think, oh, that's a neat topic that we should maybe talk about, not right now because we had all the budget stuff going on. And so this was one of them. So I don't have an agenda with this. I don't have a desired outcome. I just thought maybe we should talk about it because the question did come up during this budget, and I know it's come up in previous budgets. So I'm specifically looking at, for anyone following along, Chapter 3, Section 7 of the Charter. And that's where ordinances and appropriations by the mayor and the veto power comes into play. It's in that section. So 2 questions came up during this year's budget, and the 2 questions were, number 1, can the mayor line item veto at all? And number 2, if so, can the council his line item veto, or in other words, can we restore certain items? My question that I had asked Corporation Council during budget season was more in regards to the second. So to use the example from this year, if we recall, the mayor's veto had basically 2 different topics, if you will. There was the fire department MSOs, and there was a theater receiving money. So in my example that I had emailed the law department about, I said, are we able to, my specific question was, is the council able to override a part of the mayor's veto, or must it be a vote to override all of his veto, thus restoring all of the council's changes to the budget? For example, as this veto currently stands, if I wanted to simply add back 1 item, let's say the FD MSO positions, but I agree with all of the other items the mayor vetoed, may I make a motion to simply override that 1 item to restore it to the budget? And the law department's answer was, you cannot create essentially a 3rd budget proposal at this point in time. The choice is between the council's budget and the mayor's alteration of that budget. There can be no alternative to those choices. And then I asked if that was, I said, thank you for clarifying. Is this your official interpretation of Chapter 3, Section 7B? And that's where we left off. So I just kind of wanted to have the discussion because we touched on it, and obviously what the law department's opinion is very clear. My reading of that, maybe not quite as clear. So I wanted to just get everybody else's thoughts so that if we do have this in the future, we kind of hash it out now, as opposed to in the time constraints of the budget. So I don't know if you want me to keep talking or if anybody else has any opinion on that, but that's the section I'm kind of honing in on, is Section 7B.
I want you to keep
You want me to
talking.
yield
I
and
want
see
you
if
to keep-
anybody else, or you want me to
I want you to
keep-
keep talking.
All right, all right.
No, I.
Nobody's ever said that.
No,
That's-
I know. I can't believe I did it. I'm kidding. I want you to get your answers.
Yeah.
So I think it was a matter of, who might provide those.
Yeah.
Whether it's from legal, whether it's from the mayor.
Yeah. Yeah, I can lay out more. So basically, I spent a lot of time researching this over the past week or so. I was looking up some old minutes. I was looking up different charter revisions to see when, things, if the wording in this ever did change. One thing I did find in section 7A, there was wording added in 1973, and that wording was, it's about 5 or 6 lines down. If the mayor disapproves a proposed ordinance or budget ordinance, the mayor shall within 10 days return it to the clerk of the council with a statement of the reasons for disapproval, on and on. That wording or budget ordinance was added in 1973. So it used to say if the mayor disapproves a proposed ordinance, the mayor shall within 10 days, and then it goes into the process. Or budget ordinance was added in 1973. And I'm trying to do the research to find out the discussion around that and why that was added, but I think that plays into below in section B, where then it talks about vetoes and vetoing of a budget ordinance as opposed to just an ordinance. So I'm still kind of doing some research on that. But maybe somebody, I don't know if the law department or somebody knows why that was changed or what the background was. But that I thought that was an interesting change that happened for some reason in the 1973 charter revision. There she is.
Okay, first let me say I was not here in 1973.
Nor was I.
Thank you very much.
It feels like you were, though.
I'm sorry?
I said, it feels like you were, to you.
No.
Yes.
No.
Sit down, relax.
months.
Let's have a nice chat.
So I believe that there was a disagreement as to whether a budget is an ordinance. I think there was some back and forth, and there was a legal opinion about that. And I think that's come up actually several times. But I don't specifically know what happened in 1973. But I will say, as to your question, when you asked me that, I specifically asked you because in what you wanted to do, you needed to find money. And I said, you can't change the budget at that point. That's really was the focus of our exchange. It wasn't what you could do about the line item veto. It was specifically what you wanted to do required you to do something about the cost of it.
Okay.
And that was different than anything else.
Okay,
So
I
if
see.
you want us to opine specifically about what you can do with a veto and a line item veto, we would want to do that in writing. We want to, with the town attorney.
Okay.
But I will also say that the chapter 19, what is it? Section 4, where it says that the town council shall adopt a budget, it says it's subject to Section 7. So it's not just one part of Section 7, it's all of Section 7. And that's where you find it. But if that's a specific question you want answered, whether or not you can you can't, I think we can tell you in writing. I think the issue, there's nothing in the charter that says when you get it back from the mayor's veto or line item veto that you can make a change to the actual substance of what is before you. I think that's clear, but that certainly would be looked at with the town attorney if you want the answer to that question. If you want it as just a clean override of the veto and what you can do with it, we can address that also in writing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be helpful at least just to, like I said, it's just when we're in kind of the heat of the budget, it's not really the right time for me to be researching this. But I just think it's interesting because if there are line item vetoes, if the mayor's allowed to do that, then is the council also allowed to do that? Or I think what you were saying last time, it's kind of, you're in essence now creating another budget, unless you were referring to the revenue part of it. Maybe I misinterpreted
Well, I think
what you were saying.
that's why I asked you, well,
Yeah.
what are you going to do about
Yeah.
the cost? And that threw me into, that's what I thought you were asking me, and that's how I answered
yep,
it that way.
Yeah, so maybe we may just have miscommunicated there, so,
You know, and it's preferable because it's, you know, it's giving opinions about the charter are pretty important, is to have, you know, an outline in writing of what your concerns are and what your specific examples or questions are that we can analyze and get back to everybody in writing.
okay, is that,
So I think that's what I got caught up on, is when you talked about you needed money for
the
that.
money, right, and then I talked about the state money, yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, if that's, I'm happy to do that. I don't know if I do that just on my own behalf. Is that on behalf of the council, or do we want to see if anyone else even cares for the law department to get involved in
certainly
that,
if somebody's asking me for an interpretation of the charter, then I want to make sure that every counselor gets it.
Yeah.
So it would be, they would get the question and the response.
Okay.
So that would go to everyone.
Okay. Yeah, I can certainly do that if that's.
Right, I mean,
the chairman or-
your request and action would be for yourself. I mean, not on behalf of the council. But
Right,
we'd
for myself,
We
but
would all
everybody
be,
would-
yes, and
yeah.
you have the right to do all of that,
Okay.
and we would just be aware of it.
Okay. Yeah, then I can be a little bit more specific with what, okay.
I actually had a question. Counselor Testa, thank you. In that section 7, this is the part when this argument was, or when this discussion was taking place during the budget process. This line bothered me because every discussion about the budget and an ordinance, it was kind of interchangeable. Like you would say, if we're talking about an ordinance, except a budget ordinance. You know, it always specified that. But the line, the mayor may disapprove or reduce any item or items in any appropriation. The use of the word appropriation then always threw me.
I mean, the budget is an appropriation. That's what it is. I mean, and so that's
But
why you go back to.
I mean, we can't ask the people who wrote this, but why would it not have said
The insertion of
budget?
the word budget ordinance goes back to what Councilor Tatter was bringing up.
Yeah.
Specifically, for example, the idea that the publication, they accepted that out. So, because the budget is adopted after a public hearing, so it's in the same sense. And I could probably figure out what the history of that was and tell you so that you will know how that arose. I'm not sure I can go back to 73, but it's come up in my time. So, and I think that I would think, and I'm not 100% sure, in later revisions to the charter that was addressed. So we can look at that and tell you the story of how that happened.
I suppose it does make sense in that we have nothing to do with any appropriation in general. An appropriation is always suggested.
Oh, it takes the mayor and you.
Well, we approve, but yes, we approve them. So for the mayor to act on an appropriation,
After it's been approved, you mean?
I mean, the only appropriation we really initiate back is the budget, correct? If you think about it.
You do the budget, you do other appropriations during the course of the year, you always end up doing.
But they're
some.
always suggested to us.
They have to be the same way with the budget. The budget begins
Right.
with the mayor and comes to you.
Yeah.
And the mayor doesn't actually have to spend it afterwards either.
So there's no question in your mind.
Council shall adopt a budget. It's the whole section 7 is applicable.
Right. I get it. So when we adopt a budget, the term appropriation is interchangeable in so far as that line is written. I mean, that gives the mayor the ability to
That creates
make
that.
line item changes.
Correct.
And I know that Councilor Tada's, one of the questions she's raised is, well, if the mayor can do it, how come we can't do it? And I assume that was a big part of it, right? I mean, why not? And you're saying,
Well, that's why I got into the fact that she
we
was
can't.
talking about money at the same time. I said, you
Yeah.
can't be inserting new money in. That was my problem with that conversation. So we can address it absent that, without
that was-
discussing the
Right.
fact that she wanted to introduce the cost being put somewhere in that process of changing the veto. That was the problem with that.
Right.
So we can look at it we'll take that out of that and give you an opinion on that.
in effect, what we do during our budget process is make line item changes.
Yes, you have a proposed budget.
Right. So
You
we
change
do-
it.
I mean, that's our opportunity to do it. But then the mayor has the opportunity to veto it.
And you get the last word.
And we have the opportunity to override it. So we can override a line item veto, just as we can override anything else, provided we have the right votes, correct?
You should be. We'll iron that out in an opinion.
Because that was how
I don't know if there's some circumstance where that creates a problem. I have to figure that out.
See, it'll become effective unless the disapproved portion is passed by the council over the mayor's veto. So if the mayor issued 3 line item vetoes, we can override any or all of them individually based on my reading of this. But each one requires the 7-vote
Right.
veto. So we're in agreement on that. So
I believe so. I don't know if there's any exception. We have to take a look at
Yeah.
that.
we kind of
getting in
have
trouble
the
for
opportunity to
responding.
do what you're saying, but then again, we can't make individual changes after that. And that, I don't know if that'll ever happen. Yeah, but, okay. Thank you. Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I, too, have been doing research. And I note that in 1960, it's actually June 21 of 1960, there's a Mr. Reynolds who wrote a letter to the Charter Revision Commission asking this exact question. In his letter, Mr. Reynolds recommended that a decision should be made as to whether or not the mayor shall have the power to veto all or part of a budget submitted by him and adopted by the council. I don't see any record of that particular Charter Revision Commission answering that question, but that is the very question. So I slightly disagree. For instance, I'll give you an example. Tonight, we could have made a motion to have the pension increase at 4%. Yes. Now, that's not a budget ordinance, right? That's an appropriation. As drafted, the drafters said the mayor has the power to veto an appropriation. In the very same paragraph, they deal with this term budget ordinance. They do not say that the mayor has the ability to veto a budget ordinance. So it has to be figured out. But Janice, do you have any records for charter revision in your office?
No. Well, I may have our files from the more recent ones. We don't go back to not our office, 1960.
So I particularly looked for, because the insertion of budget ordinance was put in, as Councilor Tata correctly found, in 1973, and there had to have been a reason. And I would think that there would have had to have been some sort of representation through the Charter Revision Commission as well as to the public what that meant. Unfortunately, those minutes are not around. So I don't know where they could be, because I think that may answer the question also. If the drafters had intended the mayor to have line item veto, in my opinion, they would have written the language differently because the clause or the term budget ordinance appears in the same basic paragraph. I think it's the one paragraph above. And we know what a budget ordinance is as opposed to appropriation. So there are a lot of questions here. You know, ultimately, yes, the mayor does suggest, request, but ultimately it's this body that makes the decision whether or not to change that request. In which case the mayor would have the ability to veto. I think that's the intent. It's the intent of everything that I've seen. So I look forward to learning what you learn, and you know, I think I'm going to have to go to the library to look for the explanation that was published to the public in 1973 because I can't find it in this building. So certainly if you have it in your office, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah,
here.
I would not have anything from the 70s, but we'll double check, but I don't believe so. I mean, it should be, if it exists, it should be either in the town clerk's office or maybe the town council's office. I have no idea.
The other thing that's distressing about the archiving of minutes is the last time we had charter revision, I think was 2017. Which we've been electronic for a long time. There is no link on the town's website to a charter revision commission from 2017. I know at one point those minutes were available because I was watching what you guys were doing by reading the minutes. So why and how they came off of the website, I think that's how I got them. They may have been emailed to us as counselors, but I know they were out there. So,
Well, did you ask the town clerk's office?
they're not in charge of the website.
Oh, I'm talking about the documents, though.
Oh,
You wanted, your complaint is that they're not on the website? The minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand what, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I don't have anything to do with that either.
Yeah, that's all I had. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Laffin.
Thanks. I have all the minutes. I think they were emailed to us from 2016. For the last time the charter was revised. Question in your exploration. Hypothetically then, if there is an override to every single line item veto in the example of a budget, what happens then to the revenue side? We wouldn't. So if we override a veto on the expense side, it directly affects the revenue side because the budget has to balance, right?
Well, that's why I said I have to see whether or not there are any problems with doing that in every case.
Right.
But I mean, the council, well, I don't know. I kind of have to see an example to understand that.
I mean, does it force a balancing of the budget above and beyond the powers of the legislative
Well, but if
body
you
or the
override
administration?
everything that the mayor did, then the council, then you're going back to what the council had
Correct.
done, so you're all set.
Something that already existed and was
So you're-
predetermined
you're all
after a
set.
conversation and vote. But now by line item vetoing one portion,
Right, that's,
a new revenue line or system is established
it
by
may not
what?
be an absolute, so I'd have to take a look at
Right,
that.
that's all. That's all. I assumed that was part of the reason why there was no line item veto override. Because it would create a
Yeah.
third budget.
I think we've discussed
would
this in the
decide that?
past, that there may be circumstances where that's a problem, but we didn't do any official opinion on that, so we can look at that again.
So then if we line item veto override one item.
Right.
And then we vote on a new revenue budget, again, Does the mayor, can he then veto that? And when
You
does it
can't,
end?
you can't.
I know.
But that's the problem. You can't, you're
Yes.
not, I'm very confident we're not going to say that you can add something in addition to dealing with that.
That's why I'm saying it.
And whether or not it works in every circumstance, I think that is a concern as to whether or not it can work in every circumstance, so. I probably need to talk to
would
the
ask you
controller.
this.
You're asking me or?
I'm asking you,
Like the
Counselor
royal you.
Laffin. No, because this is in your head.
Okay.
You thought of this. When the mayor vetoes a line item, does it not impact both revenue and expenses?
It does, and he adjusts
So then
the
if we,
revenue.
so if we override that, would it, both sides of the budget return back to where they were prior to his veto?
No, well, you're doing it on an individual line item basis. The scenario did not exist as presented to the public or to us, where one line existed and the other did not.
More complicated than you
This
thought.
is.
No, I know. I'm not saying
Yeah,
I
this
have all
is
the
good.
answers. I'm just arguing
No,
it.
but I'm
Like,
just, but yeah, I mean, it just seemed to me that it would be common sense that,
oh, it might make sense
no,
that.
I mean, the mayor, if the mayor, vetoes something we did, a line item.
Then where does the revenue come from? So where do you take it out of? That's a whole different discussion. It's
Yeah.
not an automatic if
Yeah.
X then Y. It comes out of this line, or we're going to take it out of the general fund, or we're going to increase the tax line. That's not.
I mean,
That's
if it-
decided.
no. I was going to say that if it reduces the appropriations,
I mean,
then
I just
then
wanted
you're setting
you to
a
think
mill
about
rate
it in your
based
office
upon
later.
what
I don't
the
need to be a
numbers are.
part of
But
it.
we have to think these things,
Yeah.
I got to talk to the
I trust
controller.
you.
She just wants to leave.
I knew it was not a perfect answer, so.
That was it. I just,
That's a good one. Thank you.
anytime.
Counselor Tata.
Yeah, well, and now that you brought that up, so I think you made me think of this. So I think it hasn't come up because the only things the mayor has ever vetoed were expenditures. So he can veto whatever expenditures he wants because you don't need to collect money. Like there is no other side if he's vetoing expenditure. So now, to play devil's advocate, what if he were to veto a revenue item? Which it's never happened, but that's the flip side of this. So if he says, if the mayor says, so he can't veto a revenue side.
It has to be balanced.
So the vetoing the appropriation is an
Portion.
expenditure.
Portion of an appropriation.
Or a portion of.
Appropriation is only referring to the whole
Well,
thing.
Some of the, I mean, I'm not going to complicate,
Yeah.
some of the revenue side are in fact appropriations into revenue. I mean, they're not
Okay, so-
technically you would call that, but
So,
we'll,
okay,
we'll,
so-
ha- we'll have to look at it all.
So yeah, because it's never happened, but if that would throw it off. It's never mattered because if all he's vetoing is an expenditure, then you just have extra money. It doesn't matter. Not that you didn't collect enough money. So
I think there was one year where that was like a potential, and I just kind of remember this discussion that the circumstances just wasn't going to work.
yeah.
But
So I mean, I don't know. This discussion has me wondering if the line item veto was maybe not intended or is not. I don't know.
You're laughing.
The only time prior
He's jumping.
that a revenue, Mayor Dickinson was driven by, part of his veto was driven by the fact that he didn't like how the revenue lines were split, taking money from the utilities money and arbitrarily increasing the revenue side, so he vetoed the whole thing,
okay.
right? So that scenario didn't happen because it was over the whole thing. The whole thing was thrown out. So that's why it has not come up. When Mayor Cervoni has line item vetoed, it's adjusted, but it's not presented incrementally as the line items are presented.
Counselor Fishbein.
I think if the drafters had intended the line item veto, they would have provided for the check and balance of the revenue. So for instance, Just to micro this, you have the appropriation to Jason Michael's group. It's $5,000. The budget that the mayor, the budget that the council approves has $5,000 of revenue to offset that, right? Because you can't spend money you don't have. So now, using the thought process that the mayor has line item veto power, the mayor vetoes the appropriation to Jason Michael's group. You have an unbalanced budget. So that can't be. The drafters would have said, veto the appropriation and adjust the revenue accordingly. They didn't. They only dealt with vetoing appropriation.
You're suggesting that this allows him to do it during the implementation of the budget during the year.
No, I'm saying that's your argument.
No, it's not my argument. It's
no.
This has to do with the creation of the budget, not the execution, the implementation. In other words, this doesn't give the mayor the right to veto the appropriation to Mr. Michael's group today.
Oh no, there's a time period. I don't think that. But if you take the other argument that the mayor only has the power to veto the entirety of the budget, that is the power that I think there is, because then you aren't upsetting the budget. If you were to take the argument that there is line item veto power, and you use that, and my example was the Jason Michael thing, let's say within the 10-day period, right?
Right.
You have an unbalanced budget because the charter does not say veto the appropriation and make adjustment to revenue to have a balanced budget. It doesn't say that. And that's what would be necessary to have a budget that is balanced. But that's not the way it's written. That's all I have.
Well, I don't know where you thought I was suggesting the mayor can only veto the whole budget. I read the charter to explicitly permit line item vetoes by the mayor. And that's what I was saying earlier.
And the only distinction I would make to you is, for instance, the example I gave of tonight. The appropriation, the action that was before us tonight was not part of the budget, was not anticipated in the budget. It was a midstream, during the year, outside of the budget appropriation.
I disagree with that. I was going to disagree with it when you said it. I mean, I don't believe our vote on the increase, the coal increase, constitutes an appropriation. We could argue that. I might be wrong.
Certainly a representation was made to us as to what it would cost.
Right,
and it was not contemplated in the budget that we just passed, and therefore the administration doesn't have to come back to us to approve the spending of that money. So it can be nothing other than an appropriation.
I don't think
the pension agreement
I don't think the
calls for
payment out of the
council
pension fund is
approval.
part of the budget.
It calls for, in that case, it calls for the council to approve whether or not there's a COLA or not.
The payment of the pension is not part of the budget.
I understand. My point was, though, if we had made it 6%,
yeah,
does the mayor have the ability to veto that? And the only way the mayor has the ability to veto it, well, you're saying the mayor doesn't have the ability to veto?
No, it's on appropriation.
The power to set the COLA rests here. I mean, actually, I don't have the language in front of me. I probably shouldn't say that. But
well, I mean,
we don't
my
vote
understanding is he was here because you have the authority to say yes, no, a different amount. That's your power. It's not the mayor's power.
Under a strong mayor system, the mayor does not have the power to use his power as the mayor.
I'll read the pension agreement and see what it says.
I mean, that just seems weird under a strong mayor system that the mayor would not have that ability. I mean, there's other things that come up during the year that may fit more closely, but
if he has to come back with an appropriation in order to get the money, he could decide not to recommend an appropriation, but it doesn't appear that that's how this works.
Yeah, he doesn't have to come back to us to spend that money. That's
it would only apply if we needed to put more money into the fund from the budget, and we don't. This is the operation of the fund. The fund operates outside of the budget. We only vote on how much to put in every year to keep it going.
Okay,
Right, you see what I'm saying?
I understand where you're
We
going.
don't vote on how much we pay out.
Yeah, no,
It just happens.
I'll bookmark it and,
yeah.
you know, because I know this stuff comes up during the year, and we'll just,
Good one.
but thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Councilor Laffin.
Councilor Fishman, I think your concern, not the COLA one, the one before that, is only an issue if you're assuming there is a line item and veto override. That's the only scenario where you would need to then adjust appropriation, because otherwise, you overrode the whole thing, the whole veto. His veto was done line item, but the whole vetoes was done together, returning the appropriation to the council level, right? So there's not a scenario where unless there is a line item veto override, which I don't think there is because of what you said, but I don't think that precludes this from saying there are line item vetoes. It just precludes it there from being line item veto overrides.
Yeah, I don't agree with the thought process that there's a line item veto override,
Okay,
just to be
yeah,
clear.
Okay, so we're on the same page, I think. You and
Yeah,
I.
thank
We
you.
believe it's a whole as opposed to a partial.
Correct, yeah.
All right. Well, I would disagree with both of you because I think it's the last line of that section specifically states it. Unless the disapproved portion is passed by the council over the mayor's veto.
Portion.
Right. So that is the line item veto, the disapproved portion of the appropriation.
Which portion?
That's the line item.
All the portions. They're one portion. They're not individual portions.
No. Any item or items.
Portions, not plural.
Boy, we'll take this up another day. This is fun. No, this really is great. I love having this kind of discussion with you folks. You know, it's good and it's rare. And thank you, Councilor Tata. And
You're
are
welcome.
not permitted to.
I have 3 more coming for you, too.
You have no more agenda items until
Denied.
January.
But, Mr. Chairman, I mean,
You've reached your quota.
if other counselors have, we discussed, others have other questions or you take a different position, then we probably should hear that if it's, essentially a question that you want to see answered in addition to Councilwoman Tata.
Right.
Okay?
Well, I mean, we could always have a workshop.
That's up to
Anyone
you.
else?
Define a workshop.
Councilor Rivard, if you dare.
It's been fun listening to everyone.
Isn't it?
Very interesting. I just want to say, appreciate Councilor Tata keeping track of the issues that came up because we didn't really have time to discuss. Would be interested in, I know we've got interpretations on line item veto override by the council or not. That's the interpretation I'd be interested in, personally, within the charter. And maybe that's the question you were going to ask.
Yeah.
And then, if it's difficult to understand or we have competing opinions, then I think the only way to fix it would be to fix the charter to make it clear, possibly.
That pops up periodically, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that before we know it. Everybody else good? That was great. Thank you, Councilor Tata.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Attorney Small. I noticed Attorney Einhorn's kept quiet the whole time. We're going to be hitting you on this one. All right, that's it for that one. Thank you, everybody, for a great conversation. Next item.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to enter executive session pursuant to General Statutes 1-206D and 1-225F for discussion with respect for the purchase of property.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? So we are now in executive session. Please clear the room and turn off the radio. there a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're out of executive session, and that is the complete agenda. So I call this meeting adjourned.